It's been years since fans last saw Tommy Shelby walk into the smoke-filled streets of Birmingham, but now he's back. And this time, the stakes are bigger than anyone expected. The upcoming Peaky Blinders movie, The Immortal Man, is finally bringing the Shelby story into the chaos of World War II. But the moment the plot details started leaking online, one thing instantly grabbed everyone's attention. The story involves Nazis, secret wartime schemes, and a dangerous alliance that could threaten Britain itself. And when Cillian Murphy was asked about it, his reaction surprised a lot of people. Instead of turning the movie into a political statement, Murphy made it clear that he wanted something very different. According to him, the last thing he wants to be part of is a film that lectures its audience or tells people exactly what they should think. In his words, movies should never force viewers to feel a certain way. They should simply ask questions and let the audience decide for themselves. But that comment quickly sparked debate online. Some people wondered why a film set during the Nazi era wouldn't take a stronger stance. Others argued that Murphy's approach might actually make the story even more powerful, because beneath the action and the explosions, the Immortal Man might be exploring something much deeper. The complicated choices people make when the world around them starts collapsing. And that's where things get even more interesting. Because the real twist of this new Peaky Blinders story isn't just the Nazis entering the picture. It's what's happening inside the Shelby family itself. A new leader has risen within the gang, old loyalties are being tested, and Tommy Shelby may be facing the most dangerous chapter of his life yet. But before we get into the shocking direction this story is taking, we need to talk about why Tommy Shelby is returning at all after the original series seemed to close the book on his story. The world Tommy Shelby once ruled was built on back-alley deals, razor blades hidden in caps, and quiet power plays behind closed doors. But by the time The Immortal Man begins, the entire world has changed. Britain is now deep in the chaos of World War II, and the kind of street wars Tommy used to fight suddenly feels small compared to what's unfolding across Europe. War has a way of dragging everyone into its orbit, even men who once believed they could stay above it. As global tensions explode, new threats start creeping into the shadows of Britain's underworld. Intelligence whispers about foreign operatives moving through criminal networks, secret deals being made in smoke-filled rooms, and dangerous figures trying to manipulate Britain's economy from the inside. Reports suggest that part of the story revolves around a chilling real-world tactic used during the war. A plan where Nazi forces attempted to flood enemy countries with counterfeit money in hopes of destroying their financial systems. And in a world where money controls power, that kind of plan could cause absolute chaos. Suddenly the Peaky Blinders aren't just dealing with rival gangs or corrupt politicians anymore. The game has grown far bigger than Birmingham. Criminal empires, spies, and wartime conspiracies are beginning to collide, creating a dangerous new landscape where trust becomes almost impossible. For Tommy Shelby, that means one thing: there's no hiding from this fight. Even if he wanted to stay out of the war isn't staying out of his world. The Shelby name carries influence, resources, and connections that powerful people might want to use or destroy. And when enemies start moving pieces behind the scenes, it becomes clear that the conflict spreading across Europe is about to land right on Tommy's doorstep. But just when it seems like Tommy might once again take control of the situation, a completely unexpected problem appears much closer to home. Because while the war is raging outside, something equally dangerous is happening inside the Peaky Blinders themselves. Just when it seemed like the Shelby Empire might finally slow down, a new name started rising from the shadows: Duke Shelby. For years, Tommy Shelby controlled everything. Every deal, every move, every war that the Peaky Blinders fought passed through him first. But the world doesn't stop moving. And while Tommy stepped away from the center of power, someone else quietly began stepping into it. Duke Shelby, Tommy's illegitimate son. When fans first heard about Duke, many assumed he would simply be another background character in the Shelby family story. But rumors and early reports suggest that Duke is far more than that. In fact, he may now be running the Peaky Blinders operation while Tommy remains distant from the gang that once made him the most feared man in Birmingham. And that changes everything. Duke grew up very differently from the rest of the Shelby family. He didn't experience the trenches of World War I the way Tommy did. He didn't carry the same scars, the same trauma, or the same careful strategy that shaped Tommy's leadership. Instead, Duke represents a new generation, one that may be more reckless, more ambitious, and possibly far more dangerous. Some reports suggest that Duke's leadership style is already pushing the gang into riskier territory, making deals and alliances that even Tommy might have questioned. And during a time when war is spreading across Europe, those kinds of decisions could have massive consequences. That's where the tension begins to build. Because if Tommy Shelby returns and discovers that his own empire has evolved without him, the question becomes unavoidable. Is Duke truly ready to lead the Peaky Blinders? Or is he steering the family straight toward disaster? And when two powerful men share the same blood, but completely different visions for the future, conflict becomes inevitable. But the growing power struggle inside the Shelby family isn't the only threat looming over the story. Because outside their world of gangs and loyalty, something much darker is quietly unfolding. A plot that could drag the Peaky Blinders directly into one of the most dangerous alliances imaginable. At first, the rumors surrounding the new Peaky Blinders movie sounded almost unbelievable. Fans expected gang wars, political power plays, and maybe a few brutal betrayals. But when details about the story began to surface, one element immediately stood out: Nazis entering the picture. And not just as distant enemies on a battlefield. According to early reports about the Immortal Man, the story dives into a dark corner of wartime history where criminal networks and extremist political forces begin crossing paths. During World War II, there were real attempts by Nazi forces to weaken Britain from the inside, using secret operations designed to damage the country's economy and create instability. In the world of Peaky Blinders, that kind of plan opens the door to something extremely dangerous. Because when powerful criminals start working alongside foreign enemies, the line between business and betrayal disappears completely. Rumors suggest that some British gangsters in this story may be tempted by money, power, or survival, leading them to cooperate with Nazi agents in underground financial schemes. If those alliances succeed, the consequences could ripple across the entire country. And that's where Tommy Shelby gets pulled back into the fight. But what made this storyline even more interesting was Cillian Murphy's reaction when he was asked about it. During an interview, Murphy admitted that the idea of people aligning themselves with Nazi ideology is something he finds deeply disturbing. Especially in today's world where controversial voices online sometimes glorify extremist ideas. Still, Murphy made it clear that the film isn't trying to lecture its audience or turn the story into a heavy political message. In his words, the last thing he wants to be part of is a preachy movie that tells viewers exactly what to think. Instead, he believes films should simply present the story, raise difficult questions, and allow the audience to decide how they feel about what they're seeing. That approach is exactly what Peaky Blinders has always done best. Rather than painting characters as purely good or purely evil, the story often lives in the messy gray area where ambition, survival, and morality collide. And in a time like World War II, when the entire world was facing impossible choices, that gray area becomes even darker. But Murphy's comments also revealed something bigger about the way he views storytelling itself, a philosophy that he's carried through some of the biggest films of his career. For Cillian Murphy, storytelling has never been about delivering a lecture to the audience. In fact, he believes the moment a film starts telling viewers exactly what they should think or feel, it loses something powerful. When he spoke about The Immortal Man, Murphy made his position very clear. The last thing he wants to be part of is a movie that feels preachy or overly dogmatic. Instead, he sees cinema as a place where questions are raised, not answered for you. According to Murphy, the best films don't force a message down the audience's throat. They simply present a world, show the characters navigating it, and allow viewers to interpret what it all means on their own. And that philosophy is exactly what shaped his approach to this new Peaky Blinders story. Yes, the movie takes place during one of the darkest periods in human history. Yes, it involves extremist forces and dangerous political ideas. But Murphy insists the film isn't trying to turn itself into a heavy political sermon. At its core, it's still meant to be an entertaining story, an intense action drama with emotional depth. But for those who want to look a little deeper, there might be much more beneath the surface. Murphy actually compared this idea to his experience working on Oppenheimer, the massive film that earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor. On the surface, That movie can simply be seen as a gripping historical drama filled with huge explosions and tense moments. But if viewers choose to look beyond that, it also raises unsettling questions about science, power, and how close humanity has come to destroying itself. In Murphy's view, great mainstream entertainment operates on both of those levels at the same time. Someone can walk into the theater looking for a thrilling story and leave satisfied. But someone else might watch the exact same film and walk away thinking about the deeper themes for days. That's the kind of balance Murphy believes makes a story truly memorable. And if that philosophy carries over into The Immortal Man, it could mean the new Peaky Blinders film isn't just about gangsters, war, or political conspiracies. It might also be exploring something much more personal. The cost of power, the weight of legacy, and the question of whether someone like Tommy Shelby can ever truly escape the past he built. Because as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the biggest battle Tommy faces might not be against enemies across Europe, but against the ghosts that have followed him for years. After years of running Birmingham's underworld, Tommy Shelby has always carried the weight of his own legend. But in The Immortal Man, the story suggests that time and war have left him more haunted than ever. The critics have noted that the movie blends high-octane action with deep character study, a combination that might make The Immortal Man the most emotionally charged installment in the series. It's a film that doesn't just show Tommy fighting enemies. It shows him confronting himself, his regrets, and the cost of being a legend. And just when it seems the story might resolve, the ending is said to leave viewers with more questions than answers. Because the final chapter of Tommy Shelby isn't just about survival or power. It's about what it truly means to live with the legacy of the choices you've made. The question becomes unavoidable. Can Tommy Shelby finally escape the shadows of his past? Or is the weight of his own legend about to crush him completely? The answer, it seems, will only reveal itself in the world of The Immortal Man. From the moment the first details about The Immortal Man leaked, the film became a lightning rod for controversy. Fans expected a gangster epic, a story about Tommy Shelby's cunning and the inner workings of the Peaky Blinders. What they got instead is something much more provocative. Nazis, wartime intrigue, and moral gray areas that challenge even the most loyal viewers. The inclusion of Nazis in a Peaky Blinders story immediately caught attention. In a world where extremist ideas are sometimes openly discussed online, the idea of gangsters collaborating, even in fiction, with such forces sparked intense debate. Some fans worried that the film might unintentionally normalize these alliances, while others argued it adds a chilling realism that heightens the stakes. Cillian Murphy's response only fueled the conversation. Rather than taking a firm political stance, he insisted the movie is meant to provoke thought without preaching. Films should never tell you how to feel. They should just ask questions, he said. This philosophy thrilled some viewers, who appreciate stories that leave interpretation open, but frustrated others, who expected a more direct moral commentary on the horrors of war and extremism. And it's not just the political elements that have stirred discussion. The introduction of Tommy's illegitimate son, Duke, as a central figure running the Peaky Blinders adds tension and uncertainty. Father and son navigate the empire in completely different ways, and their clash raises questions about loyalty, ambition, and the consequences of power that extend beyond the usual gangster conflicts. Early reactions and reviews suggest the film delivers on multiple levels. Action-packed sequences, wartime espionage, and complex family drama combine to create a story that is both thrilling and thought-provoking. Fans are divided, some praising the layered storytelling, others debating whether the film handles sensitive historical topics appropriately. Ultimately, the controversy highlights something that has always defined Peaky Blinders. It doesn't settle for easy answers. It forces viewers to confront uncomfortable ideas, moral ambiguities, and the cost of ambition. And in that sense, The Immortal Man might be the most daring, provocative installment in the franchise yet. The question now is whether audiences will embrace this bold vision, or be too unsettled by the darkness lurking behind the Shelby name. And that reaction might prove one thing above all. Tommy Shelby's story still has the power to spark debate and keep fans talking long after the credits roll.